All right, welcome everybody. It is David Thomas. I got Mr. Jay Woolwine with me, my partner in crime here. We are going to come, as we always do here, every Tuesday, about 4 p.m. Eastern, to give you a 10, 15 minutes of motivation, inspiration, and education. All right, a lot of times we talk about trading mindset, which is why most of you know us. And then a lot of times we're going to talk about personal development, which is today is one of those days. And that's going to bleed into your trading as well. It bleeds into every part of your life. So we just want to help you become a better version of yourself, reach your goals, and hopefully you appreciate that and get some value out of it. All right. So today we're going to be talking about who you surround yourself with. Okay. So it the people around you, they can either build you up or they can quietly hold you back. You know, Jay's giving them all a nod. Those are not imaginary friends, Jay, just the real ones. There you go. But it's like if you're surrounded by the people who are ambitious. I mean, and this is not a foreign concept, hopefully, to most people who've done a little personal development, but it's a good thing to talk about and to think about. Because if you surround yourself with those people who are ambitious and like-minded, or say you surround yourself with people who they don't get it, right? They're like, man, why do you want more? Why are you trying to reach your goals? Why are you trying to be better? All those kind of things, right? That energy, whether it's positive or negative, is going to seep into you. When you're around like-minded people, purpose-driven people, it's like gasoline on a fire. Their hustle, their focus, it rubs off on you. It motivates you. And it's not even about competition, it's about alignment, right? Everyone's moving in the same direction. That alone, it'll help you keep grounded, motivated, and keep growing in the ways that, you really can't reach yourself or by yourself. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. And it's wild how much your circle of influence changes your direction, right? It dictates what's happening, right? You can have all the talent in the world, all the goals, but if you're surrounded by people who just don't care about growth, it's like swimming against the current, right? Every day. We talk about it with trading, like getting going with the trend is like, you're going downstream, but otherwise you're like trying to paddle upstream. That's what it's like when you surround yourself with the wrong people. When you've got people who are just as hungry as you, who celebrate your wins and who call you out when you're not doing the things you should be doing, right? Those people elevate you, right? And they're not just cheerleaders, right? It's not just the rah rah. They're guides. They're mirrors of you, right? And they see you for who you are, right? And they remind you of who you are. And when you start to forget, they're there to help you, right? That kind of support is rare and invaluable, right? And when you find it, it's priceless.
exactly. And it's not just emotional support either. It's strategic, right? When you're with people who are chasing big things, the conversations are different. Instead of the gossiping, complaining, the negativity, it's about goals, it's about systems, it's about ideas, it's about next steps, right? It's about growth. That energy shifts your perspective. You start thinking bigger, you start dreaming, louder. You start getting rid of the doubt and you start believing in yourself. I've had friends in my past and my present that have said things to me that seemed like just in a normal conversation, but it ended up shaping major decisions in my life. And just because they were thinking on a different level, which helped me start thinking on that level. Being in that kind of environment where everybody's just pushing each other, man, it's like a mental gym. You level up just by showing up.
Yeah. And even when you're struggling, that kind of tribe doesn't let you sit in the struggle too long, right? They'll give you the space you need, but they'll also pull you out of your own head when you start spiraling, right? And that's power, right? Like, I mean, everybody hits walls, right? Mentally, emotionally, creatively, but if you're surrounded by the right people, they remind you that that's temporary, right? They don't just say, "Oh, you got this," right? They help you get it, right? Whether it's sharing resources or sending you that book that you needed to read or just checking in, right? They're holding you accountable. They're invested in you, right? And because they see your vision, they want to see you win, right? And that changes everything.
Yeah. And it makes you show up for them in the same way, actually. It creates this cycle of mutual growth. You're not just working on your own goals anymore. You're thinking, how can I help my people level up as well? This sense of kind of shared progress. It's a beautiful thing. It builds trust, it builds momentum, and you stop feeling like you're on the path alone. And that makes taking, risks easier. Why? Because if you fall, you've got a net. You've got people to remind you, hey, that fall doesn't define you. That's a learning experience. Stand back up. Let's do it again. But this time we're going to do it better, right? That type of environment is the true flex. It's not money, it's not fame. It's real connections with the real ones who will rise with you.
That's the truth, right? Because at the end of the day, who you roll with will either feed your purpose or feed your excuses, right? So surround yourself with dreamers who also do the work, right? People who are passionate but disciplined, people who hold themselves to that same high standard that you're trying to get to, right? So when they hold you to one, it's out of love, not out of ego or competitiveness, right? That's the kind of circle that you want to have, that you want to people you want to surround yourself with, right? Not people who they don't inspire me, right? They expand me, right? Because we all need those reminders, right? Of our power, of our progress, and our potential, right? And sometimes the right people are the reminder, right? They are that reminder just by being who they are.
Exactly. So our question for you today, and we're going to wrap it up here, is who's in your circle? Are they building you up or are they holding you back? And sometimes you have to make those hard decisions to distance. You don't have to cut them off and tell them to their face, hey, I can't hang out with you anymore, but you can distance yourself exactly and start cultivating the right friendships, the right mentorships, the right peer group to help you reach those goals. All right. So we love and appreciate everybody for watching. Thank you so much. We'll see everybody back towards the end of the week. Take care. God bless.
You guys.